All right, good evening and welcome to What You Need to Know About Running for Regional Coordinator. I'm Claire Regan, immediate past president of the Society of Professional Journalists. It's an exciting time of year at SPJ as we prepare to elect our next roster of leaders. We are an organization of passionate journalists and generous volunteers who appreciate the solidarity and support of a national organization like SPJ. Tonight, we'll focus on the important role of SPJ Regional Coordinator, which is affectionately and efficiently known as RC. What is an RC? What does an RC do? Joining me are two SPJ leaders who know the answers to those questions and are eager to share them. We have Joe Radsky from Eau Claire, Wisconsin, Region 6. And we have Loretta McGraw from Des Moines, Iowa, Region 7. I happen to be from New York, Region 1. So we have 3 of our 12 regions represented here tonight. So maybe we'll start with a little bit of background from our two panelists. So Joe, tell us a little bit about your journalism background, please.
My background is broadcasting. Been a reporter, photographer, producer, news manager. Worked mostly around the Midwest, worked in Milwaukee, Green Bay, Madison, Omaha, Fargo, and now Eau Claire. I'm the news director of the NBC affiliate in Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Terrific. Loretta, tell us about your journalism background, please.
Yes. Hi. So I'm an early career journalist. I'm just getting really started in my journey in the journalism industry. I have background work in magazines. I've done print as well for newspapers, but currently I'm actually in broadcasting as well. I just became the executive morningside producer of the Today in Iowa show. I go and basically do the jack of all trades in my current position.
That's the sign of a good journalist, knowing how to do everything. So that's great to hear about both of your backgrounds. Let's talk a little bit about how your SPJ background. How did you learn about SPJ and how did you join SPJ, or how long ago? And we'll start with Loretta on that one.
Yeah, so I just joined SPJ within the last 4 years. I initially became introduced to SPJ while I was a college student. We didn't have an official chapter on my campus, unfortunately, at the time. It had kind of defuncted at that point because of the middle of the pandemic. But in lieu of that, there was at the time the Student Leadership Institute, and I was an inductee into that program, which kind of set me on the path to learning more about SPJ, learning about its rich history, knowing more than just its ethics code, as rich and diverse as this group is, and as wonderful as it is for that. I got to learn a lot more about the ins and outs of the programming. And then within 2 years, I had become part of the SPJ's leadership program. So I was able to learn even more about the technicalities of this organization and how to kind of manage my region as a whole, which really helped me once I did step into the Region 7 coordinator role.
That's a great story. Yes, I remember meeting you at the student leadership event.
Yes.
That's a great place to spot leaders, rising leaders. Joe, what is your SPJ background?
Goes back to Omaha, which is in Region 7. I was a member, SPJ member, and was recruited to start a chapter in Omaha, Nebraska. It didn't happen. The newspapers were not in favor of it, which is what you kind of need to get a chapter going. A pro chapter is to have the backing of the print people, and they were not in support. So we tried. I then moved back to Wisconsin and was always involved with a conference that goes on in Minneapolis every spring called the Midwest Broadcast Journalism Association. It also is the spring conference for SPJ. So I became involved in the planning for that conference, and the Region 6 director at the time said that she was going to leave because she was going to start a family. So she asked, would you be interested in running? And she said, "You won't win because I have someone else who's also interested from Minnesota, but I want to make sure we have a competitive race." Well, that other person did not run. And so I became the SPJ regional director at the time for Region 6 and have been ever since. And Region 6 is Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So did you have to campaign even though you didn't have a competitor?
No, I mean that's one thing that we can talk about. I mean,
Yeah.
the region, the more you probably need to campaign. But it is, I think I've won with 16 votes one time, and I've won with 32 votes one time. So I mean that's one, as you know, Claire, the challenge is getting our members to participate in the vote.
That's true. Yeah. And the vote is electronic, actually.
Mhm.
It's held during convention. This year we don't have an in-person convention, but the vote will still be electronic. So we can all watch for that. It's the end of September when the vote takes place. Um, let's clear up any confusion, even among us, about how SPJ is structured. Um, it's an organization of chapters, over 200 chapters across the country, and those chapters are organized into regions. And maybe the two of you could just talk a little bit about that. And Joe, you told us which states are in your region. Maybe Loretta, you can do the same. And we can look at the map. Caroline Hendry is here tonight behind the SPJ logo, and she's going to call up the handy dandy regional map from our website. And so we can take a look at how the country is organized. And Joe and Loretta, why don't you just, Loretta, you want to talk about your region?
Yeah, absolutely. So Region 7 is comprised of Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. So within those, we have a variety of both pro chapters and student chapters. Presently, we do not have an official chapter in Iowa, but due to some other things, a lot of our members are actually very active in different regions. So they may be part of a professional or pro chapter in another state. I know a lot of my folks are involved very heavily with the same pro chapter or United States. So it's really great to see that even if we don't have something active or the support, as Joe said, sometimes independently, we are still able to get active participation with those pro chapters, even if they're not in our space. But right now, a lot of my responsibilities fall to kind of helping to establish these chapters, especially the student chapters. Post-pandemic, we're working on a lot of the revitalization efforts just to try to get them back up, running, and get the membership and meet those requirements. So I have a couple of interim chapters right now that are student-based, including one here in Des Moines.
Good. We're losing you a little bit. We're losing your internet connection just a little bit, but then you're coming back. So that's okay.
No.
Yeah, just maybe check it out. That's great. You're smack dab in the middle of the country there at number 7. A lot of mileage there too. A lot of square mileage there. Joe, tell us about Region 6.
Yeah, Region 6, currently we have one pro chapter, and that's in Minnesota. Very strong chapter, reaches out to a lot of Western Wisconsin also. And actually today, Madison, I got a call from a reporter in the Madison area who is a SPJ member and asked if she could become more active with the chapter and raise the chapter back up. It's not, we try not to dissolve chapters. We just let them kind of rest, and then we raise them again when we have more people and a number of people who want to be a part of it. But when I was in Madison, I took over the chapter. It was resting, and a lot of veteran journalists had brought it up, started it, and we brought it back, and it was up for years and years, and then executive committee decided that they were moving. One moved to out west, one was having a third child, and so it kind of rested. So hopefully we'll raise that again. And as Loretta kind of mention that student chapters can be a challenge because obviously students are only in college for a certain period of time, and you can have students who are very active and then they graduate and that activity dies down a little bit. So we do have a chapter in Minnesota, University of Minnesota, and being here in Eau Claire, I've got the chapter back up at the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, which was at one point one of the rock star chapters in the country. But as Loretta said, I mean, COVID was a hit a lot of student chapters because they weren't meeting,
Yeah,
and it just gave them reasons not to continue on. But
yeah,
in short, pro chapters are very network, uh, have speakers, take action, while student chapters can be more social.
mhm,
They're also networking. And when you have a strong pro chapter, you use that to drive a student chapter to have them work together and do things that can benefit both.
Well, you mentioned getting a call from somebody saying, I want to reactivate a chapter. That's just the call, the kind of call an RC wants to get, right? And then also, I'm glad you're bringing up student chapters. Yeah, I mean, Loretta, do you have any student chapters in your region?
So we don't officially have one in Iowa yet, but we do have student chapters in Missouri. We've got the University of Missouri. In Nebraska, this was within the last year, we got the University of Nebraska
Good.
Lincoln back. And these are very, very strong chapters. We've also got the University of uh, Lindenburg, which is in the Missouri area, just kind of right there on the border. That's officially an interim chapter as well. It's just it's more of a private college institute, so it just doesn't really have the large scale basis that we'd like to see. But part of my job is also working on to help with those who are very interested in revitalizing the chapter to get that up and going and get those requirements met. So we're working on that this fall, both in the state of Missouri and here in Iowa. We don't have a lot of interest right now in Kansas. If that is contrary and somebody views this later and decides that they are very interested, I will be glad to share my contact information. It is also available on the SPJ website, but happy to have anybody who's interested in getting a chapter started up, whether it's student or pro, reach out to me at any time.
Great. Yes. Yeah, the student chapter, the instructions on how to start a student chapter are on SPJ's website, but of course the RC is a key connection to making that happen. That's a good segue into our next discussion. What exactly does an RC do? What is the role? What does it involve? Maybe top 3 tasks that you deal with as an RC. We'll start with Joe.
Well, you want to monitor, and you want to be a sounding board and be aware of what's happening with all of your chapters, the ones that are active. If they have weekly meetings or monthly meetings, you want to attend them either virtually or in person if you're close enough to them. You're also a resource in that region for anyone who's an SPJ member. Not everybody has to be in a chapter, and a number of people aren't, who may have questions. It may be a newspaper that's having trouble with a court, with a judge, or with a court system, or they're questioning how to the ethics of using a victim's name or something like that. You may be called upon to help them, if you can help them, or reach out to some of the ethics committee people to do that. And then, like we said, it's to look at the schools, look at the cities, and see if you can build chapters. So not only maintaining the pro chapters and student chapters, but growing them and reinvigorating them. You'll be talked every year. The headquarters will talk with each RC and say, okay, here's all the chapters that we have listed, and 3 of them haven't had a annual report in for 3 years. We're gonna close them down. We're gonna just put them in the red, and unless you've heard something from them. So you're the arbiter of deciding who you think can be raised and how much time they may need to get raised. and to remind, all your chapters of the Mark of Excellence Awards, of SDX Awards, of the annual report, which is in May, I believe, every year, and remind them that, to be an active chapter, you have to have people attend both a spring conference or both your regional conference and a national conference at some level. And that brings up the spring conference too, where usually everybody has it in the spring, where we're required to have a spring conference. And actually, Loretta and I partnered up 2 years ago when she was just new to the regional RC world, and we may do so again, because we're right next to each other, and the group that I work with in our region includes Nebraska, Iowa, Missouri. So it's been great. So Loretta and I have had some cooperation and some working together to try to bring more people into our conference.
That's great to hear. Loretta, do you have anything to add about roles and responsibilities for an RC?
Yeah. I mean, Joe's amazing. He's been doing this for a lot longer than I at this point, and he knows a lot more about the role and pretty much covered all of it. But yeah, it's really just about kind of like expanding your network, and a good point that he brought to the table also is it's more than just about your chapters and what you're working on establishing. It is also about those independent connections just with individuals who either are just a standard SPJ member or are looking to consider a membership, whether that's a newsroom or just an independent membership or an associate membership in any form. I find that oftentimes I just find myself to kind of just be a channel of connection between one person and another person at HQ or so often with the foundation, just because sometimes, you don't know where to look for the right resource. And as the RC, you kind of build those connections, build that portfolio of individuals that are just the right person that everyone needs to talk to at SPJ, or you can get them on the right path to get them set straight. Really, it's also kind of a little bit of a mentorship, I would say, in some ways. For some students, like they really look to you, not just for SPJ advice, but for future career advice, because you're part of a long withstanding organization. And in a way, you're kind of an ambassador of this organization. You signify what it stands for. You want to represent its values. And so you also want to be as great of a resource as you can for those who are interested in a long-term interest in the journalism field, whether or not that's with SPJ. But, hopefully it is with SPJ, and more often than not, it is.
Yeah, so you guys are just like the number one contact for the organization in your region and for outreach, right? And since you both mentioned regionals, let's talk about that for a moment. That is an exciting and I guess somewhat challenging responsibility of the RC, is to make sure the regional conference is organized and happens, right? Usually they're in the spring, and it's nice to hear that, regions do collaborate and combine the regional conference. Do you have a good memory of a regional conference? And maybe we should explain how they are hosted. I know chapters take turns hosting them. Like in my region one, New York is about to host again this coming spring. We hosted the last time, I believe, was 2017. So you sort of rotate as a host of the regional. Do you share any of your regional experiences?
Well, Loretta's is much more typical. I'm an outlier because we work with a group called, like I said, Midwest Broadcast Journalism Association, which has had this conference for 20, 30, 40 years. And so we have an executive director, and I'm a part of that organization. So I have sessions and I give out the MOE awards, but I don't have to plan one myself, thankfully, because as Loretta can explain, this year was very unique for Region 7 in terms of trying to put one together, right, Loretta?
Yes, yeah, I would say it's quite the challenge. The first year that I was able to team up with Joe, we found that it was a lot easier, and I saw quite a significant amount of my region actually being able to attend, even though it was more on the north side of my region. Unfortunately, this year we did actually have to kind of cancel or postpone our Region 7 spring conference just because of low attendance numbers. We have seen that at the national level, we've had a lot more responsiveness. People love a good vacation and love a great panel from people meeting all over the countryside. And that's awesome. Unfortunately, because we don't have that national one this year, we're seeing a little bit of a drop off, but we're hoping to get it back up and running. And so this year we hosted a virtual format for our Mark of Excellence Awards, because of course we still wanted all of our members and all of those awardees to feel recognized and get the credit that they truly do deserve for the works that they have produced originally, or as a team as well, because some of them are categorically part of a news team. And that was great. We had great attendance for that virtual format. And then in lieu of having a physical conference, as it was supposed to be co-hosted with, as you said, the chapter, the St. Louis Pro, it just didn't work out well. So we are instead going to be doing a series coming up here in the fall of those great panelists. So a lot of those individuals that people were looking so forward to this spring, we're going to be able to partnering with some of the other boards as well, you know, the education committee, and then just small little chapters here and there, just to try to get a little bit more activity and a little bit more reach out there.
Yeah, we'll go back to MOE in a second, but just to wrap up regionals, yeah, they are challenging, and it depends on your geographic area, you know, if you're spread out, how to bring everybody together to one location. But in, you know, the best example is when, you know, 150 members come together for regional. We've had that in New York, and we've had them 2-day regional conferences. We have great speakers and you know, luncheon program, and the MOE awards are usually given out at the regionals. And MOE stands for Mark of Excellence. And as Loretta was explaining, it's for college journalists, right? So it's really one of the best things that we do in SPJ is recognize good work among college journalists. So, what is the role of the RC with the MOE awards, Joe?
Well, you're responsible for finding a judge. They'll ask, headquarters will ask you to find someone to judge them, and the advantage of finding someone to judge is that person gets paid. If you don't find one and you have to be the arbiter judge of them, RC is not compensated for that. So it's an advantage to find someone within a chapter, or it can be someone who's a freelancer, or someone who is not connected to a chapter. But once you find a good one, you kind of stick with them. And then you have an awards. You know, I think Loretta had to do hers virtually. I did mine in person, and challenge there sometimes is that advisors want to be able to bring the winners to the awards, and you have to make a decision if you want to. You tell them that they've won something, but you don't, you know, always want to tell them that they won. They're the winner and not just a finalist. But sometimes that comes real close to the conference, and it can be a challenge to get students in the room. In fact, this year at the MOEs, University of Nebraska came to our conference. Well, they're in Region 7, and they're not in Region 6, but they thought that they were supposed to come there for it. So, but they loved it because they were at the conference. Students got to go to sessions and everything like that. So I think we want to build on that, be able to do it together, maybe.
Collaboration, camaraderie, that's true. Yeah. So, maybe our viewers are wondering, wow, this sounds like a lot of responsibility, a lot of tasks. How much time is involved? We are a volunteer organization. With you as RCs, how much of your time is taken up with your RC role, Loretta?
Yeah, I think that greatly varies, especially depending on your region. Of course, if you've got a smaller region, you're not going to be putting forth nearly so much time. I would say there's some weeks where it really doesn't require much of my time. I just have to be available by email, maybe take a call, hop on with HQ on occasion. But then, of course, come fall, early spring, when you've got the students back in session, you're working on some really diverse and rich programming. And so that may take a lot more of your time, especially with like some of the student boot camp and some of those really great programs we have here in Region 7 as well. Those weeks can vary quite a bit. I might spend 6 hours and I might spend 12 hours over the week. And it's really not an insane amount of time when you put it all together. It's just more about being organized and prepared, more than anything. And once you get into the role, you kind of get the hang of it, and things become a lot smoother. You don't have to spend so much significant time doing all this additional research because you started to compile a great list of information.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Thank you. How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Loretta said. And I thought one of the things that does take up a good bit of time is the RCs are responsible for the chapter awards. So when the chapter reports, both student and pro, are all handed in and all go through HQ, they're vetted, and the RCs are all sent every report, and then we have to determine the diversity award, the relationship to colleges award, the chapter of the year
Yeah.
for large, chapter of the year for small, chapter of the year large college, chapter of the year, and that's a process of about a month. Is not the whole time, but we'll be back and forth on calls, or we'll be sharing emails, and we have one terrific RC, Jennifer Ellis, who will go through them herself and give everybody like kind of a cheat sheet as to what to look for.
That's
And
good.
what to read on them, and it's invaluable at times. But that's a
Yeah.
responsibility of the RCs, and it takes some time.
But as you said, you can lean on each other, and the RCs do get together, right? There are meetings, and usually the SPJ president brings the RCs together from time to time, right? So you can pitch in with each other or give each other ideas and suggestions, right?
Right, and I think that happens just kind of organically too,
Yeah.
because like what happened with Loretta. Loretta was new, and we met at the conference. And hey, if you ever need anything, just give me a call. But I may reach out to Loretta as much as she may reach out to me, because I may have a question about something going on in my region and say, hey, have you seen this? And how have you handled this?
Yeah.
So we all, at a certain level, talk with each other at some point, throughout our tenure.
Well, that makes sense. There's 12 of you, so you get to know each other, right? Even across Zoom and phone calls or whatever, right?
Yep.
How about traveling? Do you travel at all? Do you go visit a chapter, or and maybe I hear there might be a stipend available for that. Anybody want to explain that? Loretta?
So I haven't been able to do a whole lot of traveling, unfortunately. But I did recently just get a new car. I had some car troubles recently, so I wasn't able to do as much as I wanted to throughout my region. But this fall, I do have plans to visit Missouri and see our biggest chapter, that's St. Louis Pro, and help out with some of that student boot camp programming, which is just a kind of a week of intensive professional career journalists coming to spend their time with both college students and as well as high school students looking into the journalism industry, to get them a one-on-one look on all fields of journalism. So it's not just broadcast, it's not just newsprint, it's kind of all across the board. You've got a professional, and they're all from all over our region as well. So it's not just they're from Missouri, but they're coming from Iowa, they're coming from Nebraska, they're Kansas, from all over our region, in order to help provide this programming at no cost to these students. And so I'm very excited to be able to participate in that in person, because we have been recognized for some awards in previous years for that programming. So we're very excited to be able to continue to host that. And I took a slight reprieve this last year, but we are back on track to get it back up and going. And I've got future plans to connect with a couple more of my chapters as they get back on the road with this fall semester, and see what they've got on their agenda, so that I can come down and visit. Locally, a lot of my recruitment effort does involve traveling, of course, but just here within the local Des Moines greater metro area. And that's just going to kind of newsrooms, going to different stations, different affiliates of my own job, to tell them about SPJ and kind of advertise both the membership to them and what it would provide, as well as offering them the newsroom membership options as well, which are tiered and that have a different variety of kind of participation for what you put forth.
Yeah, so the travel is not required, but it's encouraged because you want to, if you can, visit some of the chapters, the student chapters in person. But of course, we have Zoom now, which makes a lot of things easier that way, right? Joe, how about you? Do you do any
Yeah.
visits?
A little bit, I mean, like when Minnesota Pro, they have their own awards. They have page one awards, and so I'll go up for the awards ceremony, um, or like I'll travel back to Madison to coordinate that and have meetings over starting up the chapter again. But yeah, it's not like I said, it's not required, but it's nice to be in
Right,
person once in a while with
right.
them too. And you also have what was I going to say about the oh, that some regions have a bank account too. Not all, but some do. And so each region, each region has a bank account, and you would be generally it's a joint account because you can't have it in your own name.
Mhm.
You have to have someone else. So you pick a treasurer from one of your chapters and have them be the regional treasurer so that they have to sign off on anything. So if I want to buy pizzas for Eau Claire students, I talk with the president of Minnesota Pro, and they'll vote sometimes, but then they'll accept it, and say, okay, yes, we're aware of this, so that you can't just use the money however you want. You have to get permission to
Yeah,
use your money. And some chapters have some money, and some do not.
and you can get reimbursed for your travel expenses, right?
And there's a stipend. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but there's a stipend for travel. Yeah,
So that's good because we are
yeah.
volunteers. So that's good to know. Um, I think this is a good point for me to mention that yes, we are an organization of chapters, but we also have communities, and they're sort of virtual experiences. And there's information about those on the website. We have a freelance community and an international community. So I want everybody to know about those as well. How about why should somebody consider running for RC position? What would you say? What would you say to encourage somebody to run for an RC position? Either of you can start.
Well, I think um, you can make a difference in a profession that we all love.
Mhm.
Um, it's a it's a time to help, to be someone who can help guide, and bring fresh ideas. So I mean, I'm on the other side of it where, I've done it for a while. I've seen it being done. I I've handled certain things. Then you have a Loretta who comes in with fresh ways of doing it and fresh ways. It's like there are certain tests that we have to do, but that doesn't mean that's all you have to do. And
Mhm.
she was expressed very, very expertly there how she inserts herself and can play a role. And I think it's what we do for a living is a passion, and this is a way to kind of feed that passion.
That's great. Thank you. I think I'm going to run. Uh,
Very, very well said.
yeah. Loretta, how about you? Why would you suggest that somebody run for the RC position?
Yeah, as Joe said, I would definitely agree. Passion is a primary drive in why you might sign up for the role or run for the role. In my case, I was initially instated, and then I was reelected by my region. And I think a main thing really is just to know that I'm a facilitator in these conversations and these professional connections that are going on to grow and help regions and individuals is just really impactful to me. I also like knowing that I'm bringing a little bit of a fresh perspective to my region, and not just to my region, but to other regions. As we talked about, that collaboration with other regions is so big. I work a lot with the nearby regions. I conversate with Region 5 and all across the country, if I'm being quite frank. And it just gives me all of these different diverse ideas of
Is she coming back? Oh, We lost Loretta for a moment there.
Yeah.
All right, let's hope she comes. She's frozen. She'll come back, hopefully. Yeah, I was also going to say, oh, you're back, Loretta. Did you finish?
Okay.
You finished?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So
We lost you.
that was it.
Okay, good. I was going to add that, the RC is sort of the first, your foray into running for a national office in the organization, right? And a lot of people start that way by, winning an RC position, serving as an RC, understanding how the organization works. There's a lot to learn about it. It's a complex organization with a lot of members, thousands of members, so across the country. And then maybe, those people sometimes move on to a national board position after that. We have secretary, treasurer, vice president, and president, and member at large on our national board. So it's also an opportunity to sort of make your way into that progression if you so choose. Otherwise, you can, if you enjoy RC, you can stay there and run as many times. There is no limit in how many times you run for RC. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I only know that because of a young man named Michael Koretsky, who has been there forever.
Yeah, he's Florida region, the region
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, he's been
5. Is that region 5? But
yeah.
did I have that right?
Oh, it's 3.
Yes, he loves the role, right? Oh, 3.
Yep.
Sorry, region 3.
Yeah. But you're right. It's a bridge. It's a bridge to. We used to be on the board. We were regional directors.
Right.
Now we're regional coordinators. So it's a bridge to the national board. It's a bridge to sometimes to HQ, because chapters, as most people know, are kind of independent, and there may be times when they could care less what's happening on the national level. So it's the RC's role to make sure that they're aware of what is happening on the national level so that they can influence it, so they can play a role in the future of the organization. And I think that's part of what we do too. When after a national board meeting, a lot of times I will be on a call with the next meeting that they have for the pro chapter and say, here's the notes that I saw. If you didn't watch it, here are the things you need to know. And here are the things that we need your advice on, so that the organization can move forward and make decisions, educated decisions from the chapter members, and not just a board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Also, I'm going to add another important responsibility that comes with RC, and that is looking for other leaders and spotting them in your region. Some, a rising leader with leadership potential to sort of work into the process. And I served in the Deadline Club for many, many years and was president. And that's how I started to hear about national. And the RC is an important person to sort of talk to you about that if they see you have that potential for moving up in the organization, right? I mean, did the two of you do that? Do you look around your region for rising leaders and sort of encourage them? Joe?
Absolutely. I mean, and sometimes the difficult part, I think part of the reason I've been in this role for so long is I haven't found anyone to pass it off to, and when I try to explain it to them, and they say, oh boy, that's too big, that's a lot. And I'm like, well, it can be, but it's not, and you don't know until you actually begin to do it to realize what kind of an impact you can have. And a lot of people don't have those aspirations to move on to a larger role. But it is a difficult. I don't know how you feel about it, Loretta, how to try to explain it to people, because you want to find the next RC.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You definitely want to find somebody who is going to follow in your footsteps and serve your region as well. I myself have found many a leader, not necessarily in my region. I've been within the national, I've been able to find really, really great qualified candidates and help encourage them to run in their respective regions. We definitely have a lot of really strong talents here in Region 7 as well, but a lot of their aspirations are more at the localized level with their pro chapters or their student chapters, and they're not quite ready to step into the full-time role, volunteer position of an RC. Hopefully soon that will change and I'll be able to find a predecessor for this position. As much as I love it, I think that everybody should get the opportunity to at least run and give it a try, especially if it's an interest in theirs. And one day I hope that I continue to work my way towards the national board as well. So it's not just a stepping stone for me, but it is a great honor to be able to serve as an RC. And I think that anyone who is interested in that, regardless of their region, should definitely inquire with their current RC or anyone else that they find as a useful contact with SPJ so that they can get that process started.
I know we encourage each RC to have an assistant RC. Do either of you have an assistant RC in place?
No.
Okay.
I had a one for the first year. Unfortunately, after that point, she found that it was too much responsibility on her plate at that point. So in the future, we will see.
Yeah, I mean, if you can find an assistant RC, that's a really good way to train somebody to step in at some point or run for the office, right?
Right.
But yeah, so, and then of course we do get support from headquarters since we are volunteers, and SPJ has a paid staff. Caroline, our executive director, is here with us tonight behind the logo. And so we do, we get support from headquarters, which is good for everybody to know, recognize that. There are some deadlines, of course, for running for office for SPJ. And Caroline, if you're there, I was hoping you could put a link into the chat for the Election Central. So a lot of this information is all online about the deadlines for declaring a candidacy and how you do that. And of course, how to reach Joe and Loretta with more questions. They are on the SPJ Regional Coordinator link on our website. Then Caroline is putting the links in the chat for everybody. So you can go and find out about the deadlines. The deadline for candidacy is in August. So, but, please make sure you check that if you're interested. Oh, thank you, Caroline. Yeah, there's the link, how to run for office. It's all in there. Yeah, thanks. And that's how you declare as well. There's a form to fill out and submit on the website. That's how you declare your candidacy. But do either of you have any other, last words of encouragement to anybody who's thinking about running for a position, especially RC? Loretta, any words of encouragement other than try it, you'll like it?
Really, I just want to say that SPJ really relies so much on like the diverse talent, energy, and really that passion we were striving in order to kind of be this volunteer-driven organization that it is. So I think beyond just RC, if you're interested in getting involved in SPJ in any way, we need your help and we'll be happy to get you on board. And if you are interested in an RC position, then absolutely inquire about it. Not only because of your own passion, but because of the impact that you will make on others. You're doing so much good, and as a volunteer position, you can pick up so many more roles. You can end up being an awards judge as well. I've done that now in this past year as well. You can help facilitate conversations and help with some of the applications for programming and funding. There's just so many rich and diverse things that you can do as an RC that I wouldn't have been able to even get started on or know about without this position. So really just you have invaluable skills that you can bring to SPJ, whether or not that is as an RC or not, and you should absolutely take the opportunity if given it.
That's great. Excellent. Thank you. How about you, Joe? Any words of encouragement to wrap up?
Yeah, I think if you're passionate and protective of the work we do, being a journalist, and you're a member of SPJ, you can be an RC. You don't have to have been a president or any other. There's no reason. You're passionate and protective. You can be an RC because it is, like I said, it's 12 people who work together, 12 people who help each other too, and then you've got the board helping you. So it's a great way to get a little taste of leadership, a taste of just coordination. And I think there isn't anybody out there who isn't qualified to do this.
That's great. That's a great speech for running for RC. Even though I've never served as an RC, I appreciate the hard work and the good work of the RCs. Since I served on the national board, I was at-large director and then president-elect and president. I consider it a privilege to serve as a leader in SPJ. It's a wonderful organization, very rewarding for me personally and professionally, but most of all, a privilege. And I hope this is helpful to those people who are maybe thinking about running for RC. At least we explained the role a little bit more tonight and what the two letters stand for and what's behind them. And we hope that we see some of the names who are here tonight on the ballot in the next election. We hope to. All right. So thank you for joining us, Joe and Loretta. Thank you for your input. Thank you, Caroline, behind the logo. And may everybody run for office. There's Caroline. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you all. This was wonderful.
All right. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks.